No one expected this to turn into an open war. Not from one of the most famous families on the planet. Not from a son who grew up surrounded by privilege, protection, and a last name that opened every door. But Brooklyn Beckham just drew a line in the sand, and it wasn't subtle. In a blunt social media post, Brooklyn said he does not want to reconcile with his family. He said he is finally standing up for himself. He accused his parents of controlling narratives, manipulating the press, and prioritizing image over real relationships. No soft wording, no "we'll fix this," just a hard stop. And that's what stunned people the most, because this wasn't framed as a misunderstanding, it sounded final. For decades, the Beckham family sold the ultimate fairy tale. 2 global icons, 4 kids, tight unit, clean image. Even when rumors popped up, the machine stayed intact. Smiles at events, supportive posts, perfect alignment. But behind the scenes, sources say the cracks started forming long before the public ever noticed. And everything points back to one night. Brooklyn and Nicola's wedding. According to Brooklyn, a moment that was supposed to belong only to him and his bride was taken from them. He claims his mother stepped into what was meant to be their first dance. A private, emotional moment became a public spectacle. Brooklyn says Nicola left the room in tears. On top of that, there were reports that Victoria was originally set to design Nicola's wedding dress, only for that plan to collapse at the last minute. Different versions exist. Different explanations circulate, but one detail stays consistent. That night changed the entire dynamic. People who were there say the energy in the room shifted instantly. What should have been a unifying moment became a fracture point. Not just awkward, not just tense, something deeper. And from that moment on, things stopped being fixable with a conversation. Because this didn't stay emotional, it turned legal. At some point after the wedding, Brooklyn allegedly sent a cease and desist notice to his own parents, telling them to stop mentioning him publicly, telling them to communicate only through lawyers. Let that sink in. Not a family mediator, not therapy, not a private sit-down. Lawyers. Sources say David and Victoria were blindsided. They reportedly sent Brooklyn a private letter in response. Not aggressive, not defensive, emotional, worried, asking one simple thing. Are you okay? Instead of opening the door, it pushed Brooklyn further away. Days later, he went public. He said the story was being twisted. He said Nicola does not control him. He said the real control came from his parents. He said he's finally free. And that's where public opinion splits straight down the middle. Some people saw a man finding his voice. Others saw something else entirely. Because while Brooklyn insists he's independent, his entire life is now planted firmly inside one orbit. The Peltz orbit. Nicola Peltz comes from serious money. Her father, Nelson Peltz, isn't just wealthy, he's a billionaire investor. Corporate heavyweight, known for being blunt, strategic, and unsentimental. According to multiple reports, Nelson was never particularly impressed with Brooklyn's career path. Photography, cooking, lifestyle branding, fashion experiments. Creative, yes, but scattered. Inconsistent. Still searching. No public insults. No loud confrontations, just quiet skepticism. And when someone with that level of power quietly doubts you, it hits differently than internet criticism. There's also another detail that changed how people view the situation. Before the wedding, Brooklyn signed a strict prenuptial agreement. If the marriage ever ends, he gets none of the Peltz fortune. He leaves with only what he and Nicola personally built together. The concern isn't greed, it's dependency. If Brooklyn has cut off his parents, distanced himself from his siblings, and tied his entire emotional world to one household, then what happens if that household disappears? That fear reportedly haunts David and Victoria, and it feeds into a bigger, uncomfortable pattern. Nicola did not leave her world. Brooklyn left his. She kept her family close. She stayed financially independent. She remained anchored to her support system. Brooklyn distanced himself from his parents, lost daily access to the structure he grew up with, stopped appearing at family events, communicates through intermediaries. That imbalance is what makes people uneasy. Not because Nicola is some cartoon villain, not because Brooklyn is weak, but because isolation changes power dynamics fast. When one person or one family becomes your only emotional anchor, their influence naturally grows. Even without saying a word? One of the most unexpected voices to comment on Brooklyn's situation didn't come from Hollywood, and it came from football. Brooklyn's former youth coach from his time at Queens Park Rangers spoke publicly about what he observed years ago. He described a childhood shaped by anxiety, intense pressure, and a lack of normalcy most kids never experience. Full-time security at 14, constant expectations, limited freedom. He didn't place blame directly, but he made one thing clear. Fame and money do not equal emotional safety. And kids who grow up inside that environment can become vulnerable. Vulnerable to pressure. Vulnerable to influence. Vulnerable to believing drastic cuts are the only form of self-protection. Then there's the question no one likes asking. If the Beckham household was truly as controlling as Brooklyn claims, why did only one child completely cut ties? His siblings still appear close with David and Victoria. They post together, show up to events, build careers, live independent lives without walking away. That contrast matters. It suggests Brooklyn's situation might be the exception, not the rule. Which brings the conversation back to something far less glamorous than headlines: identity. David Beckham built his legacy through discipline, consistency, and long-term focus. Brooklyn's journey has been exploratory, creative, but uneven, still unresolved. Inside elite circles, cutting off your family isn't usually seen as empowerment. It's seen as instability. It raises questions about direction, and perception, fair or not, shapes opportunity. Despite everything, people close to the Beckhams say the door is still open. They claim David and Victoria would welcome Brooklyn back immediately. No public apology tour, no conditions, no ultimatums. But insiders also say that doesn't mean everyone involved would support a reunion. Would Nicola encourage it? Would Nelson Peltz be comfortable with it? Those answers matter more than anyone wants to admit. Right now, two realities exist at the same time. Brooklyn says he has no regrets. David and Victoria say they'll wait as long as it takes. Nicola remains constant, central, and publicly unwavering. And the longer this drags on, the harder it becomes to undo. Because this isn't just about one argument, it's about systems, influence, leverage, and long-term consequences. So the real question isn't whether Brooklyn spoke his truth. It's whether he found freedom or simply traded one system for another. And if he ever changes his mind, will anyone even be willing to open that door again?